The streets of Mecca were bustling as merchants called out their wares, and the scent of spices lingered in the air. In the heart of the city, a woman of wisdom and grace, Hazrat Khadija RA, sat in her home, reflecting on a man unlike any other. Muhammad ibn Abdullah, peace and blessings be upon him, was known far and wide as Al-Amin, the trustworthy. His character was flawless, his face radiant with a light that seemed not of this world. For years, Khadija had watched him from afar, admiring his honesty, his kindness, and his unwavering sense of justice. Though she was a woman of great wealth and status, many suitors had come and gone, unable to capture her heart. But Muhammad, PBUH, was different. He did not chase wealth or power. His soul sought something far greater. And so, she sent a message, one that would change both of their lives forever. When Muhammad, PBUH, received her proposal, he accepted, not for status, nor for riches, but for the purity of her soul. She was a widow with children, yet he saw in her a partner, a confidant, a love that would endure beyond time itself. Their home was filled with warmth, laughter, and the blessings of Allah. From their union, 6 children were born: Qasim, Zainab, Ruqayya, Kulthum, Fatima, and Abdullah. But fate was not always kind. Their sons, Qasim and Abdullah, left this world too soon, before they could even utter their first words. One evening, the Prophet, PBUH, returned home to find Khadija in silent grief. "My son Qasim," she whispered, "he left before he was weaned." Tears welled in her eyes. The Prophet, PBUH, took her hands in his. "Do not grieve, O Khadija. He is in paradise, being nursed in the gardens of Jannah." But Khadija, a mother whose heart ached for her lost child, replied, "I am his mother. It should have been me to nurse him." Her words, spoken through a mother's sorrow, pierced the Prophet's heart. He too had known the pain of loss. He too had held his child, only to bury him beneath the earth. With deep compassion, he asked, "Shall I pray to Allah to show you your child in paradise?" Yet Khadija, ever steadfast in her faith, shook her head. "No, O Messenger of Allah. Your words are enough for me. Believing in you is sufficient for me." Her faith was unshakable. She had stood by him through every trial, through every hardship. When the first revelation descended in the cave of Hira, when Jibril as commanded him to read, and the weight of divine words sent him trembling, he ran to no one else but her. "Khadija, cover me, cover me," he cried as he entered their home, shaken to his very core. Without hesitation, she wrapped him in a cloak, her arms encircling him with a love that needed no words. "Do not be afraid, my beloved," she soothed. "Allah will never forsake you. You care for orphans, you support the needy, you uphold justice. He will never allow harm to come to you." When the world turned against him, when the streets of Mecca became hostile, when his own people called him a liar, a madman, Khadija RA remained by his side. She spent her wealth in the service of Islam, feeding the hungry, protecting the believers, and ensuring that the message of Allah spread, no matter the cost. She was his pillar, his solace, the one who wiped away his tears when no one else could see them. But even the strongest mountains must one day fall. The day of parting arrived like a storm upon a calm sea. The Prophet, PBUH, sat by her side, his eyes never leaving her face, memorizing every line, every feature, as if to etch her into his heart forever. Tears welled in his blessed eyes. "Look at the wealth and beauty of the house we had when we were first married," he whispered. "And now, at the end of your life, we are in this simple tent. I could not give you comfort, O Khadija." But she only smiled, her voice soft and full of love. "Do not worry, my dear husband. You have given me the greatest gift, eternal happiness." With those words, she closed her eyes, returning to her Lord. The Prophet, PBUH, wept as the light of his life dimmed. The world around him blurred, but his heart clung to her memory. Years passed, but he never forgot. When he heard the voice of an elderly woman who had once been Khadija's friend, he rushed to greet her, spreading his cloak for her to sit. Hazrat Aisha RA, watching from afar, felt a pang of jealousy. "Who is this woman?" she asked. The Prophet, PBUH, smiled, his eyes distant. "She was a friend of Khadija. We were remembering her." Aisha RA, curious, once asked, "O Messenger of Allah, has Allah not given you someone better than her?" A shadow of sorrow passed over his face. "No, Aisha," he replied. "When everyone denied me, she believed in me. When people withheld their wealth, she gave me hers. When I was alone, she was my partner. When I was in difficulty, she consoled me. No, Aisha, Allah has not given me someone better than Khadija." Even after the conquest of Mecca, when the city's grandest homes opened their doors to him, he chose instead to pitch his tent near Khadija's grave. And when Jibril as came with news from above, he brought a message unlike any other. "O Messenger of Allah," Jibril as said, "convey Allah's greetings of peace to Khadija." And when Khadija RA received that message, her reply was simple yet profound. "Peace belongs to Allah. Peace be upon Jibril as well. And may peace, mercy, and blessings be upon you too, O Messenger of Allah." With her last breath, she had left behind a love that even time could not erase. Years later, when the Prophet, PBUH, was asked who the most virtuous women were, he took a stick and drew 4 lines in the sand. "Maryam, the mother of Isa," he said, pointing to one line. "Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh," he continued, marking the second. "Fatima, my daughter," he added, drawing the third. Then he paused. With great tenderness, he carved the longest line in the sand. "And Khadija," he whispered. And if one had looked closely in that moment, they would have seen something else. A single tear rolling down the cheek of the most beautiful man to ever walk this earth. The love of Khadija RA lived on in the heart of the Prophet, PBUH, in the legacy of Islam, and in the promise of a house in Jannah, built not of stone, but of pearls, where hardship and sorrow would never touch her again. She had given everything for the sake of Allah, and in return, she gained eternity.